The sky above the colony was red with smoke and fire. Giant ships floated in the clouds. Dark and silent like monsters from another world, the Zorath Empire had come again, their metal boots shaking the ground as they landed. Every human in the colony knew what was coming. The inspection, the humiliation, the bowing. The Zorath commander, Korin, was a tall, silver-scaled alien with 4 glowing eyes and armor that hummed with energy. He ruled over the human colony with cruelty and laughter. He enjoyed making humans kneel. It was his favorite part of the day. He believed that fear kept them small, and he was right. Until that day. The humans gathered in the open yard. Hundreds of them, children, workers, old men, all forced to stand in lines under the burning sun. Korin stepped out of his ship with his guards. "Bow before the power of Zorath," his metallic voice echoed. The crowd dropped to their knees, trembling. Everyone except one. A boy stood alone, about 15 years old, thin and dirty from work in the mines. His clothes were torn, his face covered in dust. But his eyes were alive. Bright like fire, he did not move, he did not bow. Korin noticed him immediately. He stopped walking, his tail twitching with irritation. The guards aimed their weapons, but Korin raised his hand. He wanted to see this strange act for himself. The commander walked toward the boy, his heavy armor clanking with every step. "Why don't you kneel, human?" Korin's voice was calm but dangerous. The boy lifted his head and met the alien's gaze. His voice was small but firm. "Because I'm not afraid." A wave of whispers moved through the crowd. The guards looked at each other in shock. Korin blinked, then laughed, a deep, cruel laugh that echoed across the yard. "Not afraid? You? A weak little creature from a dying planet?" He leaned close, his cold breath hissing against the boy's face. "Tell me your name, brave one," the boy replied quietly. "Eli." Korin straightened up, still smiling. "Well?" "Eli," he said, his tone mocking. "You must be special, because no one else here has the courage or the stupidity to stand." The humans watched in silence, hearts pounding. Korin turned to the others and shouted, "Look at him. This boy thinks he is stronger than Zorath." The aliens laughed, their voices harsh and metallic. The humans stayed silent, afraid even to breathe. But Eli didn't move, he didn't blink. He just looked at Korin and said softly, "You can make them bow, but you can't make them respect you." For a moment, even the wind stopped. Korin's laughter faded, replaced by cold anger. "Take him," the commander said. 2 guards grabbed Eli by the arms. The boy didn't fight, he didn't beg. He simply looked up at the sky as if talking to someone unseen. The ground under his feet trembled slightly, but no one noticed. Korin leaned closer one last time. "You'll learn fear, human boy," he hissed. Eli met his gaze again, calm and steady. "Maybe," he said, "but one day, you'll learn it too." The guards dragged him away. The crowd watched silently, their hearts torn between fear and hope. Somewhere deep inside, a spark had been lit. Korin turned away, pretending not to care. But his mind replayed the boy's words again and again. "You can make them bow, but you can't make them respect you." That night in his command room, Korin stared at the holographic map of Earth's colony. He told himself the boy was nothing, a foolish child with too much pride. But he couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. He felt uneasy for the first time in years. And outside, in the dark cell where Eli was locked, the air hummed softly around him. The walls of the alien prison flickered with faint blue light. Something old, something hidden was waking up inside the boy. And far above the planet in the silent stars, something ancient and human stirred. A whisper that would soon become a storm. The day Eli refused to kneel was the day the universe began to remember what humans truly were. The cell was dark and cold. Only a thin blue light from the ceiling glowed weakly. Eli sat quietly in the corner, his hands tied, his back against the metal wall. The silence was heavy, broken only by the distant hum of alien engines outside the prison. The red skies of Earth burned with smoke and thunder. The Zorath guards passed by his cell every hour. They looked at him like he was nothing, just another human, another slave, but deep inside, Eli felt something different growing. It was small at first, like a spark under ashes, but with every breath it grew stronger. Somewhere above, Commander Korin walked through his ship's long metallic halls. He was restless, his mind replaying the boy's words. "You can make them bow, but you can't make them respect you." It had sounded childish when Eli said it, but now it echoed in his head like thunder. He couldn't sleep, couldn't focus. It was ridiculous. How could one human boy disturb him so deeply? Corin stopped in front of the lab door. Inside, his chief scientist, Drac, was examining the human prisoner's data. Corin stepped closer. "Run a scan on the boy called Eli," he ordered. Drac tilted his head, confused. "He's just a human child." "Commander, do it," Corin growled. His voice low and sharp. Moments later, the holographic screen filled with streams of blue and red energy patterns. Drac's eyes widened. "Commander, this is impossible," Corin frowned. "Explain." "The boy's brain activity, it's beyond normal human limits. It's like he's connected to something bigger, something ancient." Corin's throat tightened. "Are you saying he's not human?" Drac hesitated. "No, he's human. But he might be what the old archives called a prime mind." Corin had heard that name before, long ago. The Zorath feared an ancient human empire, the age when humans could control machines with thought alone, but that civilization was said to be extinct. Now, staring at Eli's scan, Corin felt a chill crawl up his spine. Back in the cell, Eli closed his eyes. He felt the cold wall behind him vibrating. He didn't understand how, but he could sense energy moving through the ship. Every wire, every engine pulse. It was like hearing the heartbeat of a giant machine. He placed his hand on the wall, and for a moment, the lights flickered. He smiled faintly. "I can feel you," he whispered. The wall responded with a tiny pulse of light. Almost alive, down in the workers' barracks, whispers were spreading. "Did you hear about the boy who didn't kneel?" One man said. "They say he looked the commander in the eye." Another added. "They say the ground shook when he spoke," said a woman softly. Fear mixed with hope for the first time in years. Humans were talking about courage. Meanwhile, Corin ordered more tests. He wanted answers. But he didn't want anyone to know he was afraid in his mind. Fear was weakness, and he would never show weakness. But that night, when he walked past the prisoner's cell, he paused. Eli was awake, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Corin froze. His armor sensors flickered for a second, then stabilized. He stepped closer, his voice low. "What are you?" Eli smiled slightly. "Human." Corin frowned. "No human can do what you did?" Eli tilted his head. "Maybe you just forgot what humans can do." For a second, neither spoke. The silence between them felt alive. Then Corin turned away sharply. "Keep him under watch," he told the guards. "No one speaks to him," but his voice shook slightly. And the guards noticed later that night, thunder rolled over the colony. Rain began to fall, black with ash and smoke. Inside his cell, Eli sat up, breathing slowly. He focused on the hum of the energy flowing through the ship. He imagined it bending to his will, and suddenly, the lock on his cuff snapped open. He gasped, staring at his freed hands. He didn't know how, but something inside him had changed. At that same moment, Corin watched from the control deck. His instruments began to flicker, alarms blaring. "Power surge in Sector 7, a technician shouted. Corin's eyes narrowed. "Sector 7. That's where the human boy is." He rushed to the monitor. But the screen glitched, static everywhere through the distortion. He caught a glimpse of a faint blue light coming from Eli's cell. Then the screen went black in the silence that followed. Corin felt something he hadn't felt in years, a cold fear creeping up his spine. He looked out at the red horizon. His claws tightening, he whispered to himself, "Maybe the humans are not as weak as we thought." Down below, Eli stared at his glowing hands. The blue light faded, but the warmth in his chest remained. He didn't know what was happening to him. He only knew one thing. The world had laughed at him once, but soon they would all remember his name. The boy who wouldn't kneel had just taken his first step toward becoming something more, something the Zorath would soon learn to fear. Eli woke to the sound of whispers. They weren't human voices, but soft vibrations running through the walls. The cell was still cold and dim, yet everything around him seemed alive. The lights flickered in patterns, as if the metal itself was breathing. He reached out, touched the wall, and felt a strange warmth. Something deep inside the ship was calling to him. He closed his eyes. For a moment, he saw flashes, images of ancient cities, human ships sailing across stars, tall towers shining with blue light. Voices spoke in a language he didn't know but somehow understood. "Remember who you are," they whispered. He gasped and pulled his hand away. The wall shimmered and then went still. He didn't understand it, but he could feel the truth. He wasn't just one boy in a prison. He was connected to something greater, something that had been asleep for a long, long time. Meanwhile, in the command room, Karan was furious. Power failures were spreading across the colony, systems shutting down one after another. His officers ran in panic, shouting reports. "Sector 7 offline, energy grid unstable," one said. "Communications down, sir," another cried. Karan slammed his clawed hand against the console. "It's that boy," he hissed. "How can one human cause this?" "Drac," the scientist muttered, fear in his voice. Karan didn't answer. He was staring at the readings, strange blue waves of energy flowing out from the boy's cell, spreading through the base like veins of light. Back in the cell, Eli sat still, breathing slowly. Every time he focused, the ship reacted. He realized he could sense the flow of power like rivers under metal skin. He could change it, redirect it, even feel the emotions of the machines. They weren't alive, not like humans, but they responded to him. Maybe they remembered too. The door hissed open suddenly. 2 guards stormed in, weapons raised. "Don't move," one shouted. Eli stood slowly, his eyes glowing faintly blue. "I don't want to hurt anyone," he said quietly. But the guards fired anyway, red plasma bolts cutting through the air. They never reached him. The energy froze mid-air, then dissolved into mist. The guards stared in terror, their weapons overheating and melting in their hands. Eli lowered his gaze. "I told you," he whispered. "I don't want to fight." The ship's alarms blared, echoing across the colony. Karan watched from the control room, his hands shaking. "He's manipulating energy," Drac said in disbelief. "No human should be able to do that," Karan growled. "He's not human anymore." "Then what is he?" Karan turned slowly, his 4 eyes narrowing. A threat. Outside, the human workers in the colony began noticing strange things. Doors unlocking by themselves, machines refusing to follow alien orders, food dispensers activating, giving humans free rations, lights forming patterns that spelled one word over and over: hope. They didn't know who was doing it, but they whispered about the boy. The one who wouldn't kneel, they said. He's still alive. In the lab, Karan examined the old Zorath archives. He found an ancient report from the First War between Zorath and humans. It spoke of prime minds, humans who could control technology with thought alone. The report ended with a warning. If they awaken again, no force in the galaxy can stop them. Karan closed the file, breathing heavily. "Impossible," he muttered, but his claws were trembling. Eli wandered through the dark corridors of the prison. The security systems didn't attack him. They opened for him, guiding him. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to keep moving. The machines whispered directions in his mind. He followed them to a hidden chamber deep under the colony. In the center stood a massive crystal structure pulsing with light. He felt its energy calling his name. When he touched it, visions flooded his mind. He saw the history of his people, humans who once ruled the stars with wisdom and strength. He saw their fall, their betrayal, their memory erased by the Zorath. And he saw something else, an ancient program waiting to be reawakened. The crystal glowed brighter, its light surrounding him. A voice echoed softly. "You are the last spark of humanity's flame." Karan's sensors detected the energy spike immediately. "Power surge! Sector 12!" an officer shouted. Karan stared at the screen, watching the colony's core light up with blinding blue energy. He felt fear tighten his chest. "Evacuate the area!" he shouted. But it was too late. The whole colony shook. A wave of light spread through every machine, every wall, every circuit. Then, silence. Eli opened his eyes, standing in the glow of the crystal, unharmed. He could feel everything, the colony, the air, even the stars above. It was all connected through him. He wasn't just part of humanity's past, he was its future. And somewhere above on the command deck, Karan whispered the words he never thought he'd say. "Maybe this boy is the beginning of the end for us." He didn't laugh this time, because deep down he knew the truth. The boy who wouldn't kneel was no longer a boy. He was becoming something unstoppable, something the universe had forgotten to fear. The morning after the explosion, the colony was silent. The air smelled like metal and lightning. The sky above burned red with smoke. Every machine in the base had gone dark during the night, and no one knew why. Only Eli did. He stood in the shadows of the lower tunnels, watching sparks dance along the walls like fireflies. He wasn't sure what he had done. When he touched the crystal, something inside him had changed forever. He could feel the pulse of energy around him, the heartbeat of every system, every weapon, every light. It was as if the machines were listening to him now. He wasn't a prisoner anymore. He was part of the colony itself. In the command tower, Koran paced across the metal floor, his claws tapping like drumbeats. "Status report," he growled. Drac looked pale, his skin trembling with static. "Half our systems are down, Commander. The power grid is still unstable." Koran slammed his hand against the table. "Find the boy." "We've tried," Drac whispered. "He's gone, vanished from sensors." "Then look harder." Koran roared, his voice echoing through the chamber. But deep inside, Koran already knew this wasn't a boy anymore. This was something else, something the Zorath had feared for centuries. Down in the tunnels, Eli moved quietly among the humans. They stared at him with wide eyes, whispering. "He's the one," a woman said softly. "The one who made the lights return." A small child reached out to touch his hand. Eli smiled weakly. "Don't be afraid." "We're not," the man beside her said. "We're ready." Eli looked at the tired faces, the scars, the eyes that had seen too much pain. Something burned in his chest. Not power, not fear, but purpose. He knew what he had to do. Meanwhile, Koran sent a patrol of drones into the lower sectors. They moved like black insects, scanning every corridor for heat signatures. One drone found movement near the old mining tunnels. Koran watched from the control screen. "There you are," he hissed. "Let's see how brave you are now." He pressed the command, and the drones opened fire. The tunnels exploded in light and sound. Humans screamed and scattered as red plasma bolts tore through the metal walls. Eli stood in the center of the chaos, his eyes glowing blue. "Enough," he whispered. He raised his hand, and the plasma froze mid-air. The bolts of light turned into dust, falling harmlessly to the ground. The drones twisted, their metal bodies crumbling as their circuits melted from within. Then silence. The humans stared at him in awe. What are you?" One man whispered. Eli looked down, breathing heavily. "Just human." But even he didn't believe it anymore. Koran slammed his fists against the console when he saw the drone feed cut off. The boy was dismantling his army without touching it. "This can't be real," he muttered. Drac turned to him slowly. "Commander Su, he's a prime mind." Koran glared. "Then we do what the old emperors did. We erase him." He raised his clawed hand. "Activate the orbital cannon." High above the planet, a massive Zorath warship rotated its weapons toward the colony. A single blast from that cannon could wipe out everything below. Even the humans hiding underground, Koran didn't care. Fear had turned into rage. "He will learn what it means to defy Zorath," he growled. Eli felt the energy before it came. A burning vibration in the air, a warning from the machines themselves. He looked up, his heart racing. "They're going to destroy us," he whispered. The humans around him gasped. "What can we do?" Eli closed his eyes, feeling the hum of the planet. "Not hide," he said softly. "Fight." He placed his hands on the floor. Blue light spread out from his fingers, racing through the tunnels, up through the walls, into the towers above. Machines all over the colony awakened at once. Turrets turned toward the sky. Shields flickered to life. Power returned to the generators. For the first time in decades, human systems were alive again. Eli's voice echoed through the halls, calm but powerful. "We don't belong on our knees." When the Zorath cannon fired, A beam of white energy shot down toward the colony. But just before it struck, a massive barrier of blue light erupted from the ground. The energy hit the shield and exploded into a storm of color. Corin stared at the monitor in disbelief. "What is that?" he shouted. Drax's voice trembled. "It's him, Commander. The boy is controlling the entire colony's defense grid." The explosion faded, leaving the colony still standing. Corin fell silent, his 4 eyes wide. He could feel it now. The balance had shifted. This was no longer domination. It was war. Down below, Eli stood surrounded by humans. They looked at him as if he were a miracle. He shook his head. "I'm not your savior," he said quietly. "I'm just the start." A man stepped forward. "Then tell us what to do." Eli's eyes glowed brighter, reflecting the blue energy around him. "Stand," he said. "Stand and fight," and so they did. That night, the humans of Earth rose from the dust. They stole alien weapons, hacked machines, and took back their power. And high above, Corin watched the uprising begin. His laughter was gone, only fear remained. He looked out the window at the rising blue light and whispered, "The boy who wouldn't kneel has taught them all to stand." The war began quietly. Like a whisper in the dark, no one announced it. No army marched, no horns sounded. It started with flickers of blue light in the night, machines turning against their masters, doors refusing to open for alien guards, and human workers disappearing into the tunnels. Eli had awakened something far greater than himself. The colony was no longer just metal and stone. It was alive. The machines had begun to listen to him, to trust him, and through him they had chosen a side. The side of the humans each night. More humans joined him. Miners, engineers, farmers, people who had spent their lives in chains. They brought stolen tools, scraps of old tech, even broken alien parts. Together they built something new. Weapons powered not by fuel, but by human emotion itself. When someone fought for hope, their weapons glowed brighter. When someone fought for love, their armor held stronger. It wasn't magic. It was connection. The same connection that flowed through Eli's blood. Above the planet, Coran's fleet circled like vultures. The commander's patience was gone. Every day brought new reports, attacks on supply lines, stolen drones, entire patrols vanishing. He slammed his claws against the console, his armor sparking. "This boy is spreading rebellion across the sector," he roared. Drax bowed his head, trembling. "It's no longer just one boy, Commander." Corin turned sharply. "Then what is it?" Drax swallowed hard. "It's humanity." Rising, down in the colony tunnels, Eli studied a holographic map. Beside him stood Mara, a former engineer, and Tane, an old miner with half a hand. They were his closest allies now. "We took the eastern sector last night," Mara said, her voice calm but tired. "They won't give up easily," Tane muttered. "They'll send the big ships next." Eli nodded slowly, his eyes glowing faintly. "Then we'll give them something they've never seen." That night, as the red sky turned black, the first real battle began. Zorath troops landed near the old mining fields, their metal boots crushing the dirt. Their weapons gleamed, powered by pure plasma, but the humans were waiting, hidden in the shadows. When the first alien squad entered the field, the ground exploded with blue light. Drones hacked by Eli swarmed the air. Firing at their former masters, the humans rushed out shouting, their weapons glowing like stars. The aliens fired back. The sky became a storm of light and sound. From the top of his ship, Coran watched the chaos unfold. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Human beings, untrained, under-equipped, were pushing back his soldiers. Every time one human fell, another rose, shouting Eli's name. "This isn't war," he whispered bitterly. "It's madness." But deep down, he knew it was something worse. It was belief. In the center of the battlefield, Eli stood tall. Energy pulsed around him like lightning trapped inside his veins. He could feel every machine, every weapon, every frightened heart beating nearby. When he raised his hand, the air itself shimmered. Alien tanks froze mid-movement, their engines reversing. The humans advanced behind him. Their fear burned away, replaced by courage. Eli didn't command them with words. He led them with faith. As the battle raged, Mara found herself beside him, firing from behind a fallen wall. She looked at him, breathless. "Do you even know what you are?" Eli smiled faintly. "Just human." But when his eyes met hers, she felt it. Something ancient, something beyond that word. He wasn't just a leader anymore. He was becoming a legend. By dawn, the Zorath troops retreated. The humans cheered for the first time in generations. They had done the impossible. They had won. Eli stood on the ridge watching the burning horizon. His heart ached for those who had fallen, but his resolve grew stronger. "This is only the beginning," he whispered. The humans behind him repeated the words like a promise. The beginning. Back on the flagship, Karan watched the smoke rise from his ruined camp. He had underestimated them again. He clenched his fists, the metal groaning under his grip. "Prepare the Shadow Fleet," he commanded coldly. Drac hesitated. "But Commander, the Shadow Fleet hasn't been used in centuries." Corin cut him off. "Then it's time we remind the galaxy why we were feared." His eyes glowed red. "If the humans want war, I'll give them war." As the alien ships descended, black as night, Eli felt their presence like thunder in his skull. He knew what was coming, a storm unlike any before. He looked up at the red sky and whispered softly, "Then let the universe watch what humans can do." The humans began to gather once more. Tunnels filled with the hum of power. Blue light spread like veins through the colony. Machines whispered his name through static and code. Eli didn't smile. He simply stood tall and said, "The war has begun, but this time it's not just for survival. It's for the soul of humanity." And somewhere in the shadows of space, the stars themselves seemed to flicker, as if the universe was holding its breath, waiting to see who would rise from the ashes, the conquerors or the humans who refused to kneel. The war had burned for 7 long days. The sky over the colony glowed red with smoke and falling ships. Every night explosions painted the stars, and every morning new graves appeared in the dust. But the humans didn't stop. They fought with a fire that no machine could measure. From his flagship above the planet, Commander Corin watched the chaos in silence. He stood before the glass window, his reflection flickering in the glow of destruction. He had thought this would be easy, a simple rebellion to crush, a human boy to silence, but the boy had become a storm, and that storm was consuming everything Corin had built. Drac, his scientist, entered quietly. "Commander, we've lost communication with the Shadow Fleet in Sector 4, he said. Corin didn't turn. "Lost or destroyed?" Drac hesitated. "Destroyed, sir." Corin's claws tightened around the metal railing, sparks flying. "How?" He growled. "They had superior weapons, stronger armor." Drac looked down. "The humans. They used their own power against them. Their machines turned." Corin's eyes glowed with anger and something else. Fear. He had never known fear before this boy. He walked to his throne, sitting heavily. The room was quiet except for the hum of dying engines. "Do you believe in destiny, Drac?" Corin asked suddenly. Drac blinked in confusion. "No, Commander." "Neither did I," Corin said softly. "Until now." He looked up at the stars, his voice low. "Every empire falls, Drac. I used to laugh at the humans for believing in hope. Now it's the only thing keeping them alive, down on the surface." Eli stood at the edge of a ruined city. The buildings were silent skeletons of metal. He looked over the battlefield. Bodies of humans and aliens scattered together. His heart ached. He had power, yes, but every victory cost lives, and every death felt like a shadow on his soul. Mara approached him quietly, her clothes torn, face streaked with dirt. "They're regrouping near the western ridge," she said. Eli didn't answer. He just stared at the horizon, where the alien ships glowed like angry suns. "Do you ever wonder if we're becoming like them?" he asked softly. Mara frowned. "What do you mean?" Eli turned to her, eyes glowing faintly. "We fight with anger now, not hope. I can feel it in the machines. They respond to pain." Mara's voice broke a little. "We're fighting for freedom, Eli, not hate." He nodded slowly. "I hope you're right." That night the wind carried ash through the air like snow. Eli walked alone to the crystal chamber, the place where his power had awakened. He placed his hand on the glowing surface, feeling the pulse beneath it. It felt weaker now, almost tired. "Am I doing this right?" he whispered to the stars. No answer came, only silence and the hum of old power above the planet. Corin watched him through a long-range lens for hours. He stared at the image of the boy standing before the crystal. He should have felt anger, but all he felt was emptiness. He turned away and muttered, "He's just a child." Drac looked at him carefully. "Then stop this, Commander," Corin glared. "You think I can stop a storm I started?" Drac's voice trembled. "Then maybe..." Face it. The next morning, Koran made his choice. He ordered all ships to hold their fire. He took a small craft and descended alone to the planet. The soldiers tried to stop him, but he ignored them. The sky burned red as his shuttle landed near the crystal chamber. Eli felt him before he saw him. The air grew colder. The machines whispered warnings. He turned. And there stood Commander Koran. No guards, no weapons, no laughter. Just the same alien who once demanded he kneel. "You came alone," Eli said quietly. Koran nodded. "I didn't come to fight." Mara and the others raised their weapons, but Eli motioned for them to stop. "Let him speak," he said. Koran took a slow step forward. "I thought strength came from fear," he said, his voice low and rough. "I thought if I made humans kneel, they would forget who they are." Eli watched him silently. Koran looked down at his claws, trembling. "But you," he said bitterly, "you made me remember what courage looks like." For the first time, Eli saw something strange in the alien's eyes. Regret. "You don't have to fight us," Eli said softly. "It's not too late," Koran shook his head. "It's too late for me." He looked up at the burning sky. "But not for your kind." A sudden explosion echoed in the distance. Zorath ships disobeying his ceasefire. Koran sighed. "They don't follow me anymore." Eli looked at him, confused. "Then why are you here?" "To end it," Koran said simply. He reached into his armor and pulled out a glowing device. Eli tensed, ready to defend. But Koran tossed it at his feet. It was his command crystal, his control core. "I won't let them destroy this world," he said. "You're giving me your power?" Eli asked. Koran smiled faintly. "Power means nothing if you don't know mercy." The crystal pulsed once. Merging with Eli's light, a beam shot into the sky, spreading across the planet, disabling every alien weapon. Koran fell to his knees, his armor dimming. Eli caught him before he collapsed. "Why?" Eli whispered. Koran smiled weakly. "Because once I laughed at a human boy and it cost me my soul." His eyes faded, and the light left his body. Eli looked up at the sky filled with blue light and said softly, "Then your soul wasn't lost, it was saved." The battle ended that day. The Zorath fleet stopped firing, frozen by the energy wave. And in the silence that followed, the universe took a breath for the first time. Peace felt possible. The war was over, but the silence that followed felt louder than any battle. Ash still fell from the skies, covering the ruins like snow. The air smelled of smoke and electricity. The ground trembled softly, as if the planet itself was taking its first breath of freedom. Eli stood at the edge of the broken city. Wind brushed through his hair, carrying whispers of the people below. They were rebuilding, one stone, one wire, one hope at a time. The machines that once served the Zorath now hummed quietly under human command. For the first time in centuries, Earth was truly theirs again. Mara walked up behind him, her face tired but bright. "The last of the Zorath ships have left orbit," she said. Eli nodded, his eyes glowing faintly in the sunlight. "They won't come back," he said softly. Mara smiled. "Because they're afraid?" Eli shook his head. "Because they've learned." The humans had gathered in the heart of the colony. Old and young, soldiers and children, all standing together. A small boy climbed a broken tower and raised a flag made from torn fabric and light. It shimmered blue, the same color as Eli's energy. When the wind caught it, the crowd cheered. For the first time in generations, they weren't slaves. They were free. But not everyone felt peace in the shadows of space. Remnants of the Zorath fleet drifted among the stars. Some watched the human planet with silent hatred, others with wonder and confusion, and somewhere in the dark, a signal blinked. A message Koran had sent before his death. It said only one thing. "Do not make the same mistake I did." Eli walked through the rebuilding colony. Children ran past him laughing, their faces smudged with dust and joy. Old men repaired broken robots that now served the people instead of commanding them. The colony that once screamed under alien rule now hummed with life. Everywhere he went, people smiled. But when they looked at him, they saw more than a hero. They saw something greater, a reminder that even the smallest spark could light the darkest sky. Late that night, Eli returned to the crystal chamber. The walls glowed softly, the ancient power now calm and gentle. He placed his hand on the crystal, feeling its heartbeat slow and steady. "You did it," a voice whispered inside his mind. Eli smiled faintly. "No, we did." The crystal pulsed once. sending a final wave of light through the colony, a message of peace carried through every machine. Every human heart far above, the stars shimmered brighter. The universe itself seemed to listen from distant worlds. Other human colonies, long forgotten and hidden, received the same signal. One by one they awakened. Ships powered by old human technology came alive. Lights flickered on abandoned stations. The echo of humanity returned to the stars. On the surface, Mara found Eli standing by the edge of the cliffs overlooking the horizon. "You should rest," she said softly. Eli smiled. "I can't." "Why not?" she asked. He looked at the glowing sky. "Because it's not over yet." Mara frowned. "The war is finished." Eli shook his head. "The war, yes, but not the mission." "What mission?" "To remind the galaxy what humans truly are," he said quietly. "Not conquerors, not slaves, but survivors." She looked at him for a long moment. "You're not coming back, are you?" She whispered. Eli turned toward her, his eyes glowing like distant stars. Someone has to carry the message beyond this world. He reached into his pocket and placed something in her hand. It was Corin's command crystal. "Now dim and harmless, keep it safe," he said. "It's proof that even the cruel can change." The next morning, the humans gathered at the launch site. A small ship stood ready, built from both human steel and alien tech. Eli walked up the ramp as the crowd watched in silence. Mara stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Eli, what if we need you again?" He smiled. "Then you'll do what I did, you'll stand." As the engines roared to life, blue light filled the sky. The people raised their hands. Shouting his name, he didn't look back, because he knew they no longer needed him to lead. They had learned to believe in themselves. The ship lifted slowly. Breaking through the clouds above him, the stars opened like doors. He looked out into the endless black and whispered, "This isn't the end, it's just the beginning." And far behind him, Earth glowed softly, no longer a planet of slaves, but a world reborn, a symbol to every species watching, that humans were not weak, not broken, but eternal. Somewhere in the distant galaxy, Corin's words still echoed. He laughed at the human boy's defiance, but soon regretted it. Now, that story had become legend, and legends, like stars, never fade. Because when one human stood against the impossible, the universe remembered what it meant to hope again.